I'm in the big leagues, told them don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston, ayy, feeling like Whitney. I need a bag, bruh, send it through quickly.
What is up, football fans, USFL fans, but most importantly, Houston Gamblers fans? Welcome to Gamblers Table Talk, episode 6 of season 3. Already deep into season 3, and it's just been a wild off season. Things are happening that I never thought would happen. Some are good, some are bad, but heck, let's just get into it. We're keeping up with the off season. The off season is crazy. We know it's crazy. Last off season, a lot of things happened. Teams moved, players moved to other teams. There were trades. It was a lot of things that it was the first time we were seeing for a spring football league. So we're seeing a lot of firsts again this offseason. But first off, not that crazy of a thing that's happening is FA signings. Man, we're signing people. So we've signed 4 total people, or 5 if you count Jakari. But I'm saying since the last time I announced an announcement, which was Jakari Robinson, and he's already been on my show. So go watch that interview. But also who's already been on my show is Richard Bowens III. Old RB3 out of Saginaw Valley State, Iowa State. This guy, Bowling Green, he's fantastic. If he wasn't in an injury, Lionel Vitale says that he would have been in an NFL camp. So we already got this guy. He would have been drafted. He's coming off an injury. He feels 100%, and he's now a gambler. Absolutely love to see it. Then we got Jai Nunn Liddell out of Kentucky State. This is another guy who was in a Power 5 conference, goes to an HBCU because he wants to be a big fish in a little pond, and he goes and he balls out, and now the guy is here. These are 2 really good guys. They have good size. RB3 can play basically every secondary position that we need. So these are great pickups. Then coming in, we have Elijah Rogers, which is a Clemson favorite. Everybody, who's in Georgia, everybody who likes Clemson knows who Elijah Rogers is. He's fantastic talent. This guy comes from a football family. His brother even hit me up because he's trying to get on the Gamblers too. How cool would that be? So Elijah Rogers, fantastic guy. Love seeing his story, reading about him. He's going to be on the show soon, so stay for that. But this is great. Another corner. But what this means is it looks like we're clearing house in the secondary. We're bringing in all new guys, but so far, great talent, but none greater than the last guy that we got, which is, Coach Bob Morris. He might be gone as a GM. He might not be a gambler anymore, but his fingerprint is still left on the team. Justin Ford, who was the premier lockdown corner. Man on man, there was no one better. Nobody graded higher than Justin Ford at Montana playing for the Grizzlies in FCS the last 2 years. He was really dominant. But he was drafted. He was our 2nd overall draft pick in the inaugural USFL college draft, which is great. It was fun. He was by far my favorite pick that we made because he was a guy that was already on our radar. And we thought, he might get drafted. He might not even be in this draft. But Bob Morris pulled the trigger, got him, drafted him. And now with the new regime, we got CJ back for his 2nd season, doing a whole off season when he didn't get one last time. Lionel Vitale's coming in. He's the new GM. And they said, hey, Bob's gone, but he knew what he was doing. Look at this guy, Justin Ford. And they grabbed him. This is a huge piece. He has good size. He's 6 foot. He's got speed. He's raw talent. This guy could be a success story for the USFL, or we'll talk about later, it might not be the USFL, but he could be one of those success stories where he plays 1 year out of college. Levi Bell moves up to the league and we're never going to see him in spring ball again. So very, very, very excited about this. I love all 4 of these picks. Secondary, we have built an entire secondary basically off of just these 4 picks. So it's fantastic. And we love seeing these kinds of moves in the offseason. And I love watching defensive back tape. So it's been great. But moving on to less fun. Something that's actually completely not fun and that I absolutely hated to see was that with a new regime, with a head coach doing his first full offseason, with a new GM, they're going to want their own guys. They're going to want new guys. They're going to want something fresh. And that's why we saw a mass cut. We saw just clearing house. We saw QB Terry Wilson, tight end Brandon Barnes, corner Malcolm Washington, safety Andrew Soro, wide receiver Tyler Palka. Love you, Tyler, dude. They even put wide receiver twice. They should have put QB. Safety Isaiah Lewis, who was newer to the team. Offensive tackle Brandon Hittner, who's been with the team since the original draft. Defensive tackle Christian Scoli, who's also been with the team since the original draft, played multiple positions for the team. So for a couple of these guys, it didn't make that much of a difference because Brandon Barnes, I put it up here, he was already going to coaching. He wasn't coming back to play. He was retiring. Christian Scoli, he's not coming back to play. He told me he's retiring. News, there you go. He's retiring. But Brandon Barnes, talk to me. To someone who played every game the last 2 years with a broken right hand last year and this year with a broken left hand, the least the Gamblers could have did was a call or text. I was going into coaching this year anyway, but this is disappointing way to find out. It doesn't get better. So then you move on. Andrew Sorrow, go. LOL. I got to find out through Twitter. Bet. Malcolm Washington, finding out you got released on Twitter is crazy. Cold business. And yeah, I put a WTF there. So you can see the tweets here. James Larson originally was the one who realized that the roster suddenly dropped on the USFL.com, that there were how many guys? 7, 8 guys suddenly were off of the Gamblers roster. It looked like we didn't have a full roster anymore. And he went and figured out all the names and he posted it. And that tweet that James posted out, that's how all of these players found out that they got cut. I texted these guys, I reached out to them and all of them said, yeah, it's a blindside and it sucks. And it does suck. I don't like this. I don't like the way it happened. I understand that this is a business. I understand that Lionel came in. He's never even met these guys. He's never spoken to them. So he probably didn't feel like he had that much personal, need to reach out and say, hey, I'm letting you go. But Coach CJ, he was with them the entire last season. We have Brett Maxey, we have Chris Wilson, we have these defensive coaches who were there all year. And so it would have been nice to know that these guys had at least been let down kindly and, in a professional way than just, hey, you were released and you didn't find out until a fan posted on Twitter. So it's really upsetting and it sucks, but sometimes that's just how it goes. And these guys are all going to move on to bigger, better things. And we got to move on as well. So I wish nothing but the best for these guys. Most of these guys, if we're looking at this list, I've interviewed Terry, Brandon, Malcolm, Tyler, Christian Sicoli multiple times. These are great guys. I absolutely love these guys. They are great human beings. And so I hate seeing this. But moving on to who else might leave. For those of you who aren't tracking, who haven't been paying attention, come October 2nd, 1st, it's one of those dates, the original contract that the USFL players signed in the original USFL draft. So when the teams didn't have any players and they went and they drafted their entire team, everybody who was drafted in that draft and is not broken their contract to move into the NFL, their contract was a 2-year contract and it comes to an end at the beginning of October. Hard stop. And this is something that we haven't seen yet in this league because 1, leagues haven't lasted this long, and 2, because there's going to be movement. All of the players listed here, they were all in the original draft or the original contract, that kind of contract, because, Terry Wilson was on here, but he got released, but he was also on this list. So people like that who were brought in midseason, they got the same contract. They got the revised contract. When their contract is up, they then have to re-sign with the league. A lot of these guys probably are re-signing with the league. They want to re-sign with the league, but they don't have to sign with the team that they originally were with. So that leaves a crazy, crazy, unheard of situation in the USFL where now coaches can go and they can lobby for players. They can say, hey, Mark Thompson, you set the touchdown record. Our offensive line over here at the Stallions might be a little bit better. We have a lot of consistency coming back. We were already the best offense in the league, and you were the best running back. Come here. And he could decide, yeah, I want to go sign with the Stallions instead of the Gamblers. His contract, it's out October 2nd. He jumps and he says, sign me up, Skip. And he's on the Stallions. That could happen with any one of these players. Kenji Bahar, he could suddenly be a breaker. Montel Cozart, he could suddenly be a star. All these guys could move to a different team. Tight end Julian Allen, he's still on his contract. Now, he's an interesting one because Julian Allen didn't like how he was going to be used in the offense this year. He wasn't going to be utilized in the pass game as much, which is something that he was really, really hoping was going to be the thing in season 2. They even told him that it was going to go as far as he was going to play a lot more H-back and almost take in a fullback role. He didn't want to be a fullback, so he left. That put him on the I'm trying to remember what it was. It just stalled his contract. It just stopped it, paused it right there. So he was still on contract. He just wasn't there. So he didn't count against the 50-man roster. So what that means is that now he's still under contract. His contract can go up. He can talk to other coaches on other teams and say, hey, I don't want to be a fullback. I want to be a pass-catching tight end. And if a coach says, yeah, you will be, come here, he signs with that team. So all of these guys, Kenji Bahar, Montel Cozart, Mark Thompson, T.O. Redding, Anthony Ratliff-Williams, Julian Allen, Avery Genesee, Tyler Higbee, Ike Onwusanya, J.J. Johnson, and Andrew Galitz, all these guys who have been big pieces of the team for the past 2 years could suddenly be gone. And that's just the reality that we face, and it's going to be absolutely crazy to see. But it also then might not even matter because merger. For those of you who haven't seen, I don't know how you haven't. If you watch spring football, if you follow any spring football on social media, you've seen this, that there is apparently talks between the USFL and XFL, and the two leagues might join, and they might announce it as early as this week. They might announce it tomorrow after this drops. And what that means is that now the XFL and USFL, there's not going to be two different leagues. There's going to be one league, and it's kind of confusing how it's going to be, but there's also a lot of talks that they would only have 12 teams, two conferences of 6. North and South, East and West. So 12 teams. Well, there's 16 total teams when you look at these, which means that 4 would have to be on the chopping block, which then when you look at the Gamblers, it's tough because we're not in Houston. We haven't been in Houston yet. The XFL's been in Houston. They have the Roughnecks. So are they going to take the team that's already been there in 2020, and then they had a season here where they already played? They're working on negotiations with Rice Stadium. Or are you going to go with the team, the Gamblers, who's been around? They have history since the 1980s. What are you going to do? Well, a lot of people online are saying that you're going to go with the team that has been there, the team that had fans in the stands last year. And it makes sense. That it's sad, but that makes a lot of sense. So where does that leave us? Well, rebrand or no brand. The USFL did buy the rights. They purchased the rights to the Austin Wranglers, which means that, hey, the Texas teams were pretty successful last year in the XFL. If we're going to put teams in their home markets, why don't we just quadruple down on the state of Texas and go to Austin? Then we have the Austin Wranglers. Well, then one of the teams has to move. So there's one team that doesn't already have a stadium, hasn't been playing in Texas. So take the Houston Gamblers and move them to Austin. They could be the Austin Gamblers. They could be the Austin Wranglers. They could go somewhere else. They could be the Arizona Wranglers. We don't know. Oklahoma Wranglers, all that. But rebrand is better than no brand because we have all these players. We have the coaches. I've been building relationships with them, and it would be just kind of brutal to see all of that come to an end all of a sudden. So I'm really, really hoping that doesn't happen. The merger, while exciting, is scary for a lot of players, a lot of coaches, because they don't know what's going to happen. I have had players from the Gamblers literally text me, hey, do you think we're going to survive the merger? Because if the Gamblers get dissolved, then their opportunity has dissolved and they have to start from square one and try to get on another team. That is a scary, scary reality. These guys, this could be some of their last chance, and some of them just wanted to be a Gambler. Maybe the Gamblers don't exist anymore, and then where does that leave them? It's hard. But fingers crossed, we want the Gamblers to live on. We want the Gamblers to keep going. Gosh, I have all this Gambler stuff that I bought. It's going to be useless if they move the team, if they get rid of the team. So we're going to watch that closely. We'll see how it goes. I will keep y'all up to date. Last thing. Oh, Chris Odom, my man, Chris Odom. We're talking about all these free agents. We're talking about people we signed. We're talking about people that could sign to other teams. Well, Chris Odom was the biggest name. And I love that we put here, is he going to the XFL or the USFL? Now, if there's the merger, he's got one league to choose from. And I'm hoping that if the Gamblers survive, he would come back to the Houston Gamblers and we get to see him in this jersey without that inaugural patch on and just in a sweet USFL Houston Gamblers, maybe starter brand jersey. If we merge, who knows? Maybe even Under Armour. That would be cool. A Gamblers Under Armour jersey. That would be incredibly cool to see. And I would buy a jersey. But we don't know what's going to happen. It's crazy times here in spring football. And we're covering the whole thing. I hope the best, but expect the worst. But until then, this has been Ace. This has been Gamblers Table Talk, episode 6 of season 3. Let's hope that we get a season 4. I'll see y'all next time.
I'm in the big leagues. Tony don't miss me. Ballin' like Houston. Hey, feeling like Whitney. I need a bag, bruh.